Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my channel and an art journal tutorial. Today we have one from the Break the Blank Page, What Comes Next, where I take that broken page that had its first layer and add all subsequent layers. So here is the first layer, and to recap, we simply stenciled with black acrylic paint onto the background using stencils. This was Art Deco stencil, that's the leaf motif, and the other one is called Screen View. Now remember, this is just the starting point. So today I'm further challenging myself because I am going to use the Pantone's 2021 colors of the year, which are Ultimate Gray and a yellow they call Illuminating. Now, I know that I'm going to use those colors, so I'm flipping through my napkins and focal images, and these are all napkins that I think would fit because they do have a lot of that yellow tone in them. And all these napkins are available at NINNYSNAPKINS as well as the TCW stencil. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this butterfly one. I will put the name of this in the description box below. I love this. Even though it's a cocktail napkin, from wood tip to wingtip, it's almost 5 inches across. And that is a really nice scale. And there's multiple sizes of butterflies in that napkin. So I'm thinking that that's what I'm going to use, but I haven't firmly made my decision. It kind of depends what happens now with these layers. Now this is bright yellow from Artist Loft, which is a little too bright, so I'm going to add gesso to it to bring it more to the color. Now, most times I do the block and blend of colors, but I'm checking to see what happens when I mix that yellow with the gray, and it's not a horrible color that comes out of it, but neither is it something that I like. So if you're not sure about whether the colors are going to make something nice or not, do a little test on a piece of white paper and see what happens. So I am going to apply these colors, avoiding mixing them when they're wet. So I'm going to use the heat tool in between. And just so you know, at the end of this video, I'm going to show cards that are going to outline every step, every technique that I've used in the completion of this video. I think people find that really helpful, and it's just kind of recap. So if you like that kind of thing, you are going to definitely want to watch to the end. So my thinking is I need to put yellow on here and I need to put the gray. I'm drawing the yellow before I add the gray on there. Because remember, I don't want it to mix. I don't want to make that color. Now, yellow and gray is not a combination that I would typically use. Gray especially. So this is challenging me a little bit. But I'm going with it and I'm thinking, you know what? I can figure it out as I go. So I'm mixing the gray paint with white gesso as I apply it. So some areas are darker and some areas are lighter gray. And I'm doing that to add interest in the background. I don't like it to be all flat and one tone. Now some of this, especially since I've added the white uh, um, gesso to it, it's very opaque and it's blocking a lot of the pattern from underneath. And I do want some of that motif from the leaves and stuff to show. So I'm just going to wipe back some of that paint with a baby wipe here. And then just add more paint. Some areas of that background pattern that was originally stenciled on there has been pushed back and you can't see it. Some just peeks through and some is more upfront and visible. And that gives you that sense of layering as well. At this point, I'm thinking I'm not really happy with this. So I'm going to block off that yellow. Not completely. Little bits of that yellow still do peek through, but I've gotten rid of it. I'm thinking, my focal image is that if I'm going with the bright yellow butterfly, I have the yellow in there, but I do want a little bit of in the background, and you can see it. You can't, maybe not so much on the screen here, but little bits of that yellow are peeking through. And now I'm just stamping. This is a foliage cube. And again, I'm taking from that motif of that Art Deco leaves stencil that's through the middle. This is the stencil that I had when I broke the blank page. And I just needed more contrast. So I try with the gray. It's not giving me enough. And so I grab black. Remember, I can always add black or white to whatever if I'm doing a color scheme challenge. And I wanted to at least attempt keeping this about the colors of the year. So I'm adding some white and some black. And when I lift that up, I'm going, yes, I like that. The contrast. Suddenly it brings life to the page that was very flat. And I'm thinking the leaf motif, if I'm putting a butterfly on that, that's like it's in a garden. So I'm kind of tying how everything goes together. I like that. You see some of the motif is standing out, it's more vibrant. Some is almost in the distance. Now I'm just edging my paper. I've got black acrylic paint on my sponge. You might as well use it. And if you know me and if you watch my videos, I shade or edge every page as one of the steps. I want to add some more of this motif. So I'm going to be adding some with white, with black, looking at it, adjusting it as I go. The secret to stenciling with acrylic paint is you put the paint on the sponge and then tap off on your craft sheet. I have a glass tabletop, so that's all glass, which I love. At this point, I'm thinking, I like this background. Now, this is the napkin from Ninny's Napkins, and it has, I'm removing 2-ply white layers. These I save, and I can use to stamp on, to collage at another time. So they just go into a pouch in my stash. So now I'm just thinking about which butterflies do I want, and I just want to separate it from the rest. Here is where I'm going to determine the actual composition of my page. And I'm really liking what the lines on the butterfly here match or play really well with the lines that were in those leaves. You take a look at that afterwards, but that's one of the reasons I chose this over the birds. It just seemed to work all together. I'm trying to tell you why I'm choosing what I'm choosing, because that's what people are asking. Like, how do you know what which focal image? It's just more of an instinctual thing. I put it on and I test one and I test the other. Sometimes I take pictures. But usually there's something that works together, something of similarity. So one butterfly doesn't seem like enough. Now this one, there's like 1.5 butterflies here, and it's all gray or black and white. So I'm just cutting it out. I'm not 100% sure that I will be able to use it. I'm just being very careful. I'm using my liner brush and I'm water cutting. Now I could have this fall off the page. I could have it like it was on the napkin underneath the other butterfly. And I like that. Now typically when you have a focal image or anything, it's in multiples or odd numbers. So I cut out the medium-sized butterfly and now I'm going to get ready to glue them down. Now, the thing about napkins is they go very transparent when you add the liquid matte medium on them. So because there's so much dark, especially the black underneath, I am marking off the area that the butterfly was, and I'm putting a layer of gesso just to get rid of that black or knock it back so that it doesn't discolor the butterflies so much. I took a white Stabilo pencil and I roughly traced where the butterfly is, and then I'm trying to size it. I try to keep a little bit smaller than where the butterfly goes, but if you go over it, you can always come back with some gray paint or the whatever background color, and you'll see me doing that. Just keeping an eye. It's really difficult with the white Stabilo. I can't quite see it, so I'm bringing the butterfly over top of it. If you don't want to do this, you could glue the butterfly down before I did the stenciling, but I had some stenciling there even initially, so. And the more you do of this, the better and easier it gets. I'm going to give that a dry before I glue it down. I'm just adding a little bit more. I don't want those lines to show through the butterfly. I want the artwork on the napkin to shine. Here I'm using fluid matte medium. This is Liquitex Basics brand. And I love, this is my preferred adhesive when I'm using napkins. Lining up the butterfly and very gently. Remember, that napkin becomes very fragile when it gets wet, so you do not want to be too rough or you will rip it. And there we go. It's all done. Now you can see part of that, the leaf motif is shining through the butterfly, but I'm okay with it. It's okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this third butterfly. Tracing it with the Stabilo, getting a rough edge. Painting that out with the white gesso. Here it wasn't as important to do because it's white. It's not the black stenciling. Now, if you're thinking, oh, you had some of that green view stenciling in the corners and you totally did away with it. Remember, what you start with, you don't necessarily have to keep. You can always change your mind as the creative process goes. If something doesn't work, you have the power to push it back, put something on top and get rid of it. Gluing that down. Loving this. I so love this now. Like I was a doubter at the beginning. Now some of this I want maybe a little bit more black, so I'm just putting the stencil back on and just fine tuning the composition. I like how it kind of swoops down. Now that white butterfly, of course, I want to paint. So I'm taking my paint, my yellow paint and white gesso and just painting that out. Now, if you've watched some of my videos, you've seen me do the painterly effect and paint over top of focal images, free printables, napkins, and I'm choosing not to do that so much here. I do add a little bit of color to this one, and I touch up a little bit on the other ones, but I leave it as is because I don't want to get rid of the lines that are there. I'm really liking how they're playing with the Art Deco leaf stencil. I'm adding some burnt sienna because it's on the napkin, just a little bit of a highlight. I want it to look like they had colored that napkin. And that napkin has some white big ones, so you can colorize them any way you want. I printed off some. My word of the year is possibility. And so I'm collecting quotes for a potential sentiment pack. And I have a few quotes already, and I'm just going to look at them and see if I can make it work. Now, this one seems a little bit too big. The font doesn't necessarily show up so well. So I'm just additioning them. Again, it's trial and error. Sometimes I'm cut the sentiment apart. Now I like this better because it's flowing. Once you choose hope, anything is possible. And actually they chose the gray and the yellow as a sign of hope for this year. So I kind of wish I had chosen that because I had read about the Pantone color of the year afterwards. I like that setup. Then I had this one, and I really liked how the font of this one, again, read really well with the Art Deco black stenciling that I had. So try one, try the other, take pictures if you're unsure. Whatever you like best is the right choice. Now I'm going to come in with my General's charcoal. This is the extra soft one because I want to smudge it. That's going to add to the gray, and it's also going to shade the sentiment and the butterflies, as well as edge the paper. You get that foggy look that you can't quite get when you use a makeup sponge and black acrylic paint. Now I'm spreading this with my finger, but it's really difficult to get in there. So you can use a tortillon which is a blending tool. Here I'm just using a Q-tip. It's not quite as good, but it gets in there and allows me to smudge and get right into the butterfly. And hopefully when I go pull up a little bit, you'll see the other butterfly and you can see the difference the shading makes. It makes it stand out from the background. And again, the more you do of this, the better you'll get, the more comfortable you'll get with it. So there you can see, I'm pointing out the difference. And here, if there was a little bit of that white gesso that I painted underneath, I can just cover that up. And now I grabbed the medium in the General's charcoal, and I'm just bringing out a few of those lines. I like how they are playing with the Art Deco leaves, and I just want to bring it out just that little bit, but I'm not smudging them. And the harder the charcoal, the less likely it is to smudge. I decide that I need to splatter with gold. The gold I'm hoping is going to look, excuse me, like that yellow. I could have splattered with the yellow as well, but I wanted a little bit of bling. And I love how it looked. And this introduces some more of that yellow into the background. So now to recap, I love this page. Here's where we started. We stamped or stenciled to break the page. Then I applied color. I didn't use the blend technique because I wanted to keep those colors apart. I didn't want the color they make. Then we did some more stenciling with black and white. Then I used the napkin to make the focal image. And then I painted that napkin where I needed to. I added the sentiment to the page. And then I edged it and shaded, and then I splattered. I hope you like this as much as I do. I hope you take the challenge and create using the Pantone colors of the year. Here's the stencil and the napkin. Both are linked in the description box below. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Now go get creative.